And you may have to unmute.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right. So I'll jump right into this. Radical coder, you're gay, by the way. Uh, so are men treated like shit in society? This is the question. Unequivocally, the answer is yes. Before I get into all the reasons that's true, let me tell you what my opponents will argue, which can be only one of two things. It'll either be A, yes, men are treated like crap in society, but that's due to men being in charge. And it's secretly the patriarchy, which is instilling an oppressive system designed to treat men poorly. And so we should all be feminists so that men get treated better. Or option two, yes, but they deserve it because they were oppressive to the poor women's for 200 billion years and they're getting their just comeuppance. Ultimately, though, I think they will concede in the opening, thus maintaining our 100% perfect tally on modern day debate of our opponents conceding the position before the debate even starts. So, where to begin? Let's start with women pretending to be minorities, even though they are actually a majority. Yes, friends, women outnumber men, yet somehow still have done a bait and switch where they pretend they are somehow a minority who deserves to be protected from what you ask, basically from men hurting their fifis. Yes, be nice is the creed of the modern woman. Women get lighter prison sentences for the same crimes, are favored in divorces. They initiate most divorces, even though they are still favored in them. Schools are tailored to their needs, which is why they do better academically. The list goes on and on and on. And we have an exhaustive list of stats with us. Let me also remind everybody that men not only are totally benevolent and don't deserve the scathing wrath of horrible harping women treating us all horribly because they are entitled snotty brats, but I can demonstrate this benevolency of men using the Thanos technique. If men decided with a snap of their fingers tomorrow that all women were to be enslaved, then they would be. All they could really do is whine a lot and beg and plead, and that's about it. However, if women decided men were to be enslaved tomorrow, we would scoff, and again, all they could do is whine and complain. The reason women are allowed to get away with their shitty behavior is because of simps who enable them to do so. They do this in hopes a woman somewhere will breed with them, but they won't because women are too busy, according to the stats, breeding with men who treat them like something they scraped off the corner of the mouth this morning and threw it in a trash can. Men's benevolent and good nature can't be overstated. All of society is run due to us being awesome. And we do all of this despite incessant complaining from women who mostly hold office jobs, are waitresses, and fill up the service industry in general because a real job would literally kill them. We do all of this for all of society, and we're treated like rapists, orchestrators of violence, evildoers, and generally taught that masculinity in and of itself is a trait to be mocked and scorned rather than adhered to. It's a disgusting society we live in that holds these virtues, and we're here tonight to prove that, of course, men are treated horribly, like garbage. Nobody cares about men, not even other men. The expectation of society is that men fix their own problems and everybody else's too, chiefly women's. And that's my opening. Thank you.
All right, so I guess it's my turn. Some of you guys in the chat theorized that maybe Andrew was being facetious. I can assure you that he is not. That's just his style. He's very straightforward. I'm going to completely agree with him, and not only agree with him, but back his play here. I did write a book on the subject as well, not to like flex on you guys. But what Andrew said is true. And where this comes from is that prior to women's liberation, we had a balance of power where men had the monopoly on force, women had the monopoly on reproduction. Women were the gatekeepers of reproduction. Each of you watching this has twice as many female ancestors as you do male ancestors. Women, all they have to do to be able to reproduce is be female and be fertile. Men, in order to reproduce, historically have had to fight their way up the hierarchy. They've had to have resources. They've had to prove themselves good providers, good protectors, things of that nature. And what happened when we did the whole female liberation shtick was that we flipped the balance of power. So now women not only have a monopoly on reproductive power, but they also have political power, they have financial power, and they have social power. So now we have 3.5 times more men committing suicide than women. We have, like Andrew said, much stiffer, harsher sentences that men receive for the exact same crimes as women. We have young boys who don't do well in school. Public school systems are completely skewed in favor of girls and girls' behavior, and boys are expected to behave like girls. This is mostly due to the fact that about 90% of school teachers in K through 12 schools are women. And now college degrees are about 77% of them are earned by women. So women have social power, they have financial power. About 80% of every consumer dollar in the United States is controlled by women. So all the marketing is geared toward women, all the entertainment is geared toward women. The highest earning entertainer of 2020 was Kylie Jenner. She doubled the next closest man on the list, who was Kanye West. Women have tremendous amounts of power, and men have almost none. The family court system is skewed very much in favor of women, although that's changing a little bit because there are some good men's activism groups working on that. It's pretty indisputable that women are worshipped and praised and treated with a lot of bias, and men are kind of treated as expendable and like they can just be thrown away. And the reason for this is because now we have an industrial technological society that gives us this false illusion that women can do everything men can do. However, the average CEO boss bitch gets up in the morning in her condo or her apartment or her house that was designed and built by a man. She gets in her car that was designed and built by a man. She drives to her office building that was designed and built by a man on roads that were designed and built by men. And if she gets to her corner office and her computer doesn't work, she calls a man and he comes and fixes it. And then she uses a program at work that she was trained to use that was designed by men, most likely, to do whatever job it is that she does. And as Andrew said, if you look at the careers of women in this country from 1920 to 2020, that's a 100-year span. They're almost exactly the same. The only thing is we swapped farm labor for HR work, basically. And the rest is secretaries, daycare workers, nurses, administrative assistants, cooks, waitresses, things of that nature. So it's really like an illusion of female power without anything to back it up. The only reason this exists is because men allow it. And the only reason men allow it is because they felt like the sexual revolution was a good deal for them. Turns out that unattached sex with no responsibility is actually quite a huge liability for men and not something that was in their favor. So I think we have a pretty good case here, and I'm interested to see what the other side has to say.
Thank you so very much for both of our interlocutors on the affirmative side. Sounds like a cat. And with that, we are going to hand it over to the negative side. The floor is all yours.
Ryan, did you want to start us off?
Sure. So I guess I'll start out. I did think it was interesting at the outset that it was, when we were asked to do this debate, that it was kind of implicit that we would take the no position. I don't have a solid answer on this question. I don't really know entirely yet how to engage with the question. I wrote down a bunch of notes during that. So we'll walk through this. I think the first question I have is like, which men are we talking about, and by whom are they underappreciated? I would say that like it depends on the context a lot. Like we could argue in a lot of cases that men are underappreciated by other men. We can argue they are underappreciated by women, but like this whole like gender warfare thing is really boring to me. So I'd like to be like way more specific when we're talking about these things. Maybe we can kind of hammer a lot of that down as we go through. That's kind of my biggest my biggest point of contention with like the whole framing here. Last time I was on, I did challenge James to a debate about whether or not modern day debate is actually a neutral platform. So maybe eventually I can follow up with that. Because I think it's interesting that Andrew says, oh, they always concede the point or whatever. I think last time something like that happened. But I think maybe the framing of the questions might have something to do with why it's so easy for Andrew. It's kind of a vacuous question, really. Are men underappreciated? Like, we just have to be way more specific about this. Underappreciated in what ways? By whom? All of these are really big. Like, it's just without answering these questions, we can't even begin to have the conversation. So I guess that's really where I'd like to start going. But I'll let Ashley give her perspective on things for now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I was kind of amused when Andrew said, "Oh, they're going to concede before it even starts," because, like you, I was just sent an email asking if I wanted to debate are men underappreciated. And the funny thing is that a majority of my content is about how men are underappreciated in a lot of these ways. But if I'm going to argue any points, I would say, yes, you are right, Rachel. Men's suicide rates, successful suicide rates, much higher than women. But if you look at it statistically, the same statistics you're looking at, it's actually suicide attempts and thoughts of suicide are predominantly female. It's just method of suicide. Men tend to do suicide by hanging, carbon monoxide poisoning, or firearms, while women tend to go for like medication. They over medicate to try to off themselves. And the thing with that is that you're more likely to be found before the suicide attempt has been successful, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. So just to clarify that little point, but it is interesting. It is interesting. Also, the highest rate of suicides, it would be in America, anyways, would be what was it, Ryan? I said middle-aged white males.
Yeah, middle-aged white men.
Yeah, middle-aged white males. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting, you guys were talking about the schools, right? And how education is catered primarily towards females. I don't know how much I agree with catered towards females, but I do know that the rates of female college graduates are well outnumbering male college graduates. That I'll agree with you on. Another interesting statistic I looked up earlier was like, I think, what was it, in the span in 1 year from like 2021 to 2022, female CEOs went from like 17% up to 30% in 1 year. Because that was a point I brought up to Ryan. I said, I wonder if that number is going to change, in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. If we're having more female college graduates than males, then wouldn't one assume we'd have more, female CEOs in the future than male. So that's another interesting thing. And then one thing you said, Rachel, that I can agree with, but maybe we'll have a slightly different opinion on, even though we agree, but kind of different, is that you were saying that, I kind of like the way you worded it, actually, like, who would guess, unattached, just sex, without any consequences, like, wouldn't be good for you. I will agree with you that I think that the traditional role of family, husband, wife, son, daughter, etc., has kind of, I don't know if it's gone out the window, but it's definitely largely perverted, one might say, from what it used to be, for lack of a better adjective maybe to use there. But I also think that, like, one thing Andrew said too, like, it's breeding this kind of culture of simps, the beta simp male that's trying to, like, sniff after the girl and chase after her to hopefully get some poonan, he may or may not. That's interesting to me too. It's almost one of the questions, like, we want to ask, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean? So, like, when you take sex completely out of the equation, it just makes me wonder, like, I guess the only benefit then would be for marriage would be children, maybe financial stability, maybe taxes, but so many people, especially women now, are able to just either not have kids at all, have surrogate mothers, adopt. That's a thing that a lot of people are doing. It's just becoming more and more popular for same-sex couples to have surrogate parents. And so, yeah, I kind of agree and disagree, and the way I disagree is that, like, is that lack of power, sex equals power, is that lack of power kind of also turning a lot of men angry, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but like, I feel like a lot of this modern day, feminism, the purple haired, crazy Twitter feminists, like, I think that it's breeding this culture, like you would say, it's making good men somewhat bad, and it's making bad men somewhat dangerous. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. But anyways, I hope I kind of clarified some of my points of view.
Thank you so very much for the negative side. And with that, we are going to go into about 50 minutes to an hour of open conversation. The floor is yours, panel.
All right. I just want to first point out that, as Andrew predicted, they conceded pretty much right out of the gate. They kind of
definitely didn't concede anything.
Okay. Look, if you can't suss out your position in a debate when it's proposed to you, you don't get to come on and then look weak and say, well, I didn't know and I didn't understand and I feel like it wasn't explained to me, right? So
Here, can we skip the theatrics and just talk about the issue again?
No, like, it's not theatrics.
It is.
You don't get to cope in your opening statement, radical coper, and get away with it. I'm going to call you on it.
Right.
Obviously.
Okay. Go ahead. You can do that later. But so to the point, the first point
out of the way,
minority claiming to be majority. Right?
You didn't even have a position really. It was just like, well, we kind of agree, but maybe we disagree, and I don't know.
I'm open. You guys might change my mind.
And I just want to let everyone be able to hear both sides. So, Rachel, it sounded like you were about to say something, and then radical coder, it sounded like you had an idea right after that.
Keep your ADHD under control while she talks.
I'll try, Andrew.
So Ashley pointed out something, which is that yes, men are much more successful in suicide attempts, and that's because they mean it, and women tend to do it out of like this cry for attention stuff, which kind of gets to what we're talking about here, which is women have become very adept at emotional manipulation, social manipulation, and attention is women's currency. So that the reason there's a gap in suicide there is because women don't really mean it. They're crazy, but they don't want to die. They just want you to pay attention to them. Men feel like there's no point. Like, why build the modern world? Why build the entire modern world and then get shit on? So
all right.
That's why men actually kill themselves.
Yeah, can you respond to one other thing that I just want to bring up real quick?
Can we do it one point at a time, I guess?
You can respond to this one too.
Well, sure.
It's tied in.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Andrew, can you just hold, I'll make sure that it goes back to you, but then Radical Coder, make a point, but then I want to make sure it actually goes right back to Andrew, of all people, because he was about to say something.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of a cute story about like the way that suicide rates play out. I think in reality, what we're really talking about is what the term is like fatal suicidal behavior versus non-fatal suicidal behavior. And women are extremely overrepresented in non-fatal suicidal behavior, and men are overrepresented in fatal suicidal behavior. And I think it's really, honestly, kind of like sociopathic to just allude that all these women who are basically like engaging in suicidal behavior, regardless of whether it's fatal or non-fatal, are just doing it for attention seeking. I don't know that you have any good reason to believe that.
So they're just bad at it. They're just bad at it. Then
they're just not as good.
They're just not as good as men at doing it.
Chill. First of all, I think Ashley mentioned one thing that the methods that they're using tend to take longer, and so they're bad at it. So I mean, you can call it that, but I don't like. This is why I don't even agree with
the patriarchy wins again.
Yeah, every time the women are so terrible at committing suicide, they can't even do it.
Again, it's very cute when you guys talk about people killing themselves, and it's all big memes for you guys. But for those of us who actually care about when people kill themselves, we actually want to care about like what's actually going on,
virtue signal more.
Yeah, virtue signal. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again,
by the way,
care about
let me ask you. Let me ask you another.
That's fine.
Let me ask you another question.
Finish my point.
Go ahead, finish your point.
Right. Okay. So I think it's irresponsible to talk about the terms like successful suicide rate. I think that phrase already adds a lot of intent to someone engaging in fatal suicidal behavior. I mean, we can leave it there, but I think it's kind of cringe to just paint the story that like women actually don't want to die when they engage in suicidal behavior, especially women who do end up dying from that suicidal behavior. So I don't know.
So you had nothing. So you had nothing
for that other than like painting women as
nothing useful to add.
Silly.
We're
Right,
very
no-
mean.
Yeah, you had
Let's
nothing.
just
I agree.
establish at the
hang on.
beginning that
That's
we
not
are
the point,
very
but yeah, I
Hang on,
agree.
hang on.
We're the mean
Radical
side.
Coder, you literally didn't add anything to it. There was no reason for
Okay.
you to even
I
keep
disagree.
going. And by the way,
I think I offered a better way to think
let
about
me
these
ask
things.
you. Let me ask you this question, and I'm not going to. I'm keen on spotting passive aggressive behavior, and I
That's
noticed you rolling in, and you were alluding to the fact that you seemed to think that there was a conspiracy between ourselves and James
Oh, no,
with
not at
this
all.
topic. No. You tied this in
I don't think it's
specifically.
conspiracy.
Hang on.
Just to be clear.
Let me finish,
Okay.
Coder.
I'm just
You
answering.
tie it in specifically right at the beginning of the intro and say, I wanted to debate James on whether or not he has a neutral platform.
Still do.
And then you went on to state that the way that this topic was framed was in some way designed specifically so that we could come in with a win-own. We just knew that we would do that because who we're debating. But I want to know, you specifically don't actually believe that myself, my wife, and James Kuntz of Modern Day Debate conspired to
No, of
create a
course not.
topic
That's
just
silly.
to humiliate you, right?
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to humiliate me, but no, I don't think that. I think
Well,
that's
I don't
silly.
need to. You do that to yourself. Okay,
I
I
know you
just
think
wanted to
that.
clear that up. I just wanted to clear that up because it's
Okay.
insane.
Do you want to
But
engage
that's
with
what
the?
that's the way that
Okay.
I just want to know that that's how it sounded.
Can we talk about the topic? Or
Yeah,
are you
but
just
I'm not going to let you get away with passive aggressive
Okay.
behavior.
Well, I mean, I'm
So-
going to be very passive aggressive this whole time.
So-
so-
Yeah, I know you
Speaking of
already
being
are. We know.
Aggressive.
Yeah,
Andrew,
right.
could you go ahead and define then whenever Ryan made his opening statement, he wanted either you or Rachel to kind of define what you believe exactly is going on as far as what men are we talking about that are being undervalued and underappreciated, like, and by whom?
So generally speaking, the way that we would frame this is that it's tiered in the levels of which men are the most ostracized in society, but mostly all men are affected by this. Generally, working class men seemingly get it the worst. If you're not in the top 5%, you get it even worse than that. Societal expectations, especially from
I think
women.
that's with every gender, though. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, the top 5% of anything is going to get anything less bad. I'm just specifically
You
whenever
can't.
this topic gets
So
brought
Ashley,
up,
you can't
though.
ask me to define it, and then in the
Right,
middle of
I'm
my
sorry, let me
definition, you
clarify.
stop me.
Let me
Like,
clarify. My apologies. Let me clarify. So when I say that, like if you specifically thinking of this subject right now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, and who do you feel is
white
the most
men.
affected?
White men are the most for sure.
Okay. That's-
By no other metric can I state this more emphatically that what would generally be considered in public consciousness and public thought, a white man is the most discriminated against person inside of the United States, period.
Bold claim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you have a defense against it?
Not yet. No, we're gonna
No,
have to
I
break it
didn't.
down
I
more,
didn't.
right?
I didn't think so. So here's the thing, Ashley. Here's why. For one thing, again, you and I think you guys would both have to agree with this, that women have decided to include themselves as a minority group. They are fighting for a type of group rights, and it's framed as them being a minority, even though they're not an actual minority, they're a majority. So what they do is they do additional demographic breakdowns, right? So then it's woman plus black, woman plus gay, woman plus this, but the woman adds to the victimhood card. This is how this is done. It's in tiers, and it's social tiers designed to break these groups down. And you can actually watch the counter discrimination all the way back to white male.
Sure. So to that point specifically,
I dislike that victimhood mentality. I'll agree with you that like anytime that I ever do see anything like, especially on social media or in the news, even when it is a man being targeted, I mean, what is the common saying that all the feminists and in any other subgroup have right now, right? Is that it's a cis white male. So I can agree with you on that.
So I mean, again, we're kind of in agreement here. As we break these things down, everything is designated a victim group. This is actually part of critical race theory, in my opinion.
Which is based.
I know code. Yeah, exactly. It's based. But as we break these down, for instance, if you're a white man, for instance, who becomes trans, suddenly you get the victim card, which helps move you into that portion of victim society. Same thing with if you're a woman and you're a white woman, you're less oppressed than a black woman, but you're still a woman, so you're at least a little bit oppressed. Hang on. So I'm just kind of walking you through the victim Olympics here.
But are you insinuating that white men are purposely becoming transgendered so that they aren't as prejudiced against?
Well, I think that there's something to be said for the fact, and I'm not just insinuating it, but I would actually push this as a part of a larger argument that yes, unsuccessful, especially middle-aged men, rather than blow their brains out, seem to prefer to move towards transitioning. They seem to get the attention that they want, especially on TikTok, places like this, and the victim mentality seems to work pretty well for them. Yeah.
What data are you basing that off of?
I'm just basing this off of observation. It would be part of a large. Hang on. It would be part of a larger argument. It's not a singular argument by itself. You asked my opinion on it specifically, so I gave it.
Yeah, I was just curious what you're basing that off of. I really honestly don't know.
Well, I could actually help substantiate that. I wrote a piece that's on my Substack, rwilson.substack.com, about programs that are intended to help men transition. They are hypno pornography programs that are highly suspicious, very well produced. Nobody knows who's making them. Probably the most popular one is called Bambi Sleep. And this is, they get you into the program via like trans porn and things like that.
Called hypnosissification.
Yeah, hypnosissification. And it indoctrinates the male listener with the idea that if they are addicted to porn, they're watching this stuff, they are unsuccessful as men, they would be better off as women because then at least they would get attention, they would get sex, they would be in demand, they would be wanted by someone, and then it further and further integrates the listener into this program, and it's meant to help transition them into being a woman. It's very insidious, very nefarious stuff, but these exist. They're out there.
Sure. And so if I can start there, I guess the idea that like becoming a trans woman is like a solution for these men to like finally like be like find themselves in a better position in society. I don't know if that really makes that much sense.
It's not really about
that would be that would be your argument. You would
I can't even say a sentence. I can't even say a fucking sentence. So like why do I even start?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'm gonna pull you both apart so I can hear Radical Coder and Andrew, which means Radical Coder, make your statement, and then Andrew, you're next.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I don't really buy this narrative that trans women are transitioning like just for the sake of so that they can find themselves in a slightly better position in society. It seems like trans women get treated pretty badly throughout society. I think that's pretty clear, honestly. If you're on the internet for even more than a few minutes, or if you are aware of like the stats around trans people and their suicide rates and all sorts of other things, the way they're discriminated against is pretty common. I did want to speak really quick to the critical race theory thing. Just to be clear, all critical race theory says is that race is not a biological category, which is just a kind of a scientific fact. So if you have a problem with that, I mean, that's you can take that up with the race realists, like what's that guy who's coming on? He's in the little patch here, whatever. Finally, to the point about like the minority pretending to be a majority or majority pretending to be a minority, it's kind of a word game here. Minority in this context is not literally the number of people is less than the other group of people. It's more about being minoritized, right? Which is more of being put in a subordinate position in society. Which I think it's interesting that at one point Andrew made the point that if men really wanted to, we could just enslave all the women. And so like I think that like the fact that he feels so confident stating something so insidious and insane is maybe speaks to
so let's back up. Let's
a value
back up.
System that puts women in subordinate positions.
Let's walk through. Hang on.
Okay.
Let's walk through these. Is an ought.
What?
Is an ought.
I don't. Why are you asking me this? Can you just get to the point?
I need you to answer my
question. No, you
question.
don't. No, just respond, dude.
No, you just answer my
question.
So
stupid. Really, just respond, please.
Is an ought.
I don't know. I don't even know what you mean. I've never heard of philosophy.
Okay. So is an ought.
I don't know. Why don't you just say your point? Why are you doing this weird like Socratic
I need
bullshit?
to ask you.
No, you don't. Just say what you want to say. No one's making
because
you do
it's
this.
baked into what you're saying. I can't deconstruct
it.
I can't deconstruct your argument if you don't answer questions. Can you do that or not?
I can't. So you have to say your point.
Okay, if you can't answer questions, then there's no point in debating.
Well, you can leave if you want.
No, you would have to leave.
I don't have to do shit.
I'm asking you the question.
Just say your point, dude.
I've said my point. Is an ought. Now
Okay.
you can say I don't know.
Okay,
Just
so we can
say
move
just
on.
say
So
you
I can
don't
move on to
know.
the next point. We talked about lighter sentencing,
You can
initiating
do. You
divorce.
move on to
That's what I
whatever
can
you
move on
want.
to?
I can't believe
Okay.
you won't answer the question.
I don't know why don't you just say your point that you're getting at? Like, why do you have to do this weird
Ryan,
game?
this is a debate.
Oh my God!
It's a
Debate doesn't
debate.
mean
It
Ryan.
includes logic.
Isn't ought Ryan?
seems like a leading
how many
question and
sides
it's not
does a
a real
square
question.
have? Like, I just
Then,
don't-
I mean,
then
this
if
is
you know
stupid.
the answers to those questions, answer them.
It seems like kind
I'm
of
good.
like you're just trying to play word games. and
Well,
have-
It's not word
no.
games.
It's not a word
Semantics
It-
in a
it
debate.
does.
Semantics in a debate specifically are very important. I need to know, since he's making is statements and then he's saying that I'm using them as ought statements, that he knows the difference between
Can
an
you
is and an
specify
ought.
the example where I did
Yes,
that?
you said
Okay.
that I say because it is the case that men could snap their fingers and therefore women would be enslaved if they did. That means it ought be done. I didn't actually say
no,
it
I
ought be
didn't mean
done.
that.
Yes,
No,
but that's
if I
what you
said that. I don't
Ryan.
think I said that.
Ryan,
I'm
that's
sorry if
what
I
you-
did.
That's
I
what
take
you
that back.
said,
You
right?
No, it was more the
literally
implication of such a
said-
statement.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. You said that this is an insane position that I came up with, but I didn't have a position. I gave you an is, correct?
No, you actually said that if men could, they would.
No, I
he
didn't
No,
said
he said
it.
they
No,
could.
he
He
didn't.
said- he said they
He
could.
did not say that at all.
This is why it's important
said-
that I know that you guys know the difference between what is
Right.
and what ought be,
He
Ryan.
actually, by the way,
Okay,
he
well, I
actually
didn't. I wasn't
said,
saying that you think.
no,
that
wait
should
a
happen.
second.
Yeah,
I
I'm
have to
sorry.
clarify
Is
that
how it
because
came
he
off to you?
said
You're
said
good.
they could, and the fact that they don't is a point in their corner that they are benevolent and that there is
Those are
no
all cuts,
vast
right?
hatred. No, he's saying men could. Men have a monopoly on force. They could just enslave women if they wanted to with the snap of a finger, which is true, but they don't.
And
Which
that doesn't
means they
mean
are
I
not
said they
evil.
ought to do it either, Ryan.
Okay,
So it's
yeah, I
important.
agree. And
So
I agree.
never
We shouldn't
said
enslave
Right. So
women.
when you make those statements, it's important. Now,
Is that
as
during
to
his opening argument?
yeah, you can go back to the opening argument. See,
I
it for
am.
yourself. I have it written right down. I can read it to you, the part that I'm
No,
talking
I want to
about.
actually play what you said. It's all
Go,
good.
go ahead and play it. But in any case, I did not prescribe that should be
I
done.
agree. I said that
Or
like 5 times
ought be
now.
done, anything
Mhm.
like this. Well, your partner seems to be confused. So then backing up and deconstructing this a little bit further, because it's important to do, I understand when you're talking about racial categorization not being biological categories. I have no use for that myself either. However, I'm alluding to your worldview of public consciousness. When we talk about white in the public consciousness, that does mean something. You would agree that that's true, right?
I'm sorry. I was reading something. I missed the last half. Something about white people with public consciousness. What's the
If
point?
you're look, if you're not going to even listen to the questions, if you're not
I'm
going to engage,
I'm really asking you because I missed it. I'm genuinely. I'm not trying to be a meme here. Like, what was the point again?
I'm going to ask you one more time.
Yes,
I'm not
that's what I'm asking you.
alluding to a biological category with white, but I'm alluding to a public consciousness of what that means.
Sure. What about it?
And you would agree that there's a public perception of what white is, even if you don't think it's a biological category, right?
Yeah, of course. I think.
Okay,
it's a category. Of
so
people,
when
yeah.
I say that this categorization that people often reference and think of outside of biology, but within a social construction, being the most oppressed in society, and I make my case by saying that they have no minority status, you say, and your claim is that minority is semantics and doesn't actually mean less than. Rather, it means minoritize. What does that mean, minoritize?
Minoritized means to make a person or group subordinate in status to a more dominant group or its members.
Okay, so this would mean that you could have a majority, but still be minoritized
Yeah,
by
of
an
course.
actual physical minority, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and that's what
I
I'm
don't think
saying.
white people are.
That's what I'm
but
saying is happening to whites right now, is that
Yep.
they're being minoritized,
I know
even
you're
though they're
saying
in the majority.
You said if men decided tomorrow that with the snap of a finger that women could be enslaved, then they would be. And all women could do about it would be to whine and cry and complain.
And
Yes,
you're
that's true.
that's an is
He
statement.
didn't say they
Hang on,
should do
Ashley.
that.
Ashley, is
He
that an
didn't
odd
say they
statement?
should.
Is
I
that
think
an
a lot of-
odd
if they
I
statement?
think a lot of men do want to do that, but they can't.
Wait,
because
no,
other
no,
men don't
stop,
want to
No,
stop,
do
no,
it.
stop.
no, you're wrong.
I want to
Okay.
know the answer to this question, Ashley. Is that an is statement or an ought statement? Did I say that ought to happen, or do I say that is
You
what is?
implied that it ought to because you implied that
you did
men
not
would.
imply that.
I believe
you,
that you did.
you are
You
I don't
believe
think
I
attaching
you
did.
should hold
that.
a dialogue.
Yeah, I
I
believe
think
you.
you're attaching a lot of shit.
This is
too.
the problem
You
with
literally
debating
said-
with people that don't know logic. They don't have any basis in philosophy. They don't
I have a
understand
computer
the,
science
the
degree. My
difference
degree's in
between
facts
an
and logic,
is
dog.
claim and an ought claim.
Well,
He
then why
said
didn't you answer
this
a
is
basic
the case.
question?
He didn't say
it was
that
stupid.
men ought
If
to.
ifs and buts were candies and nuts, Rachel might be a more pleasant person.
Right. So can
This
we again?
is
Can we
not
talk about
a-
the topic?
This is not a
And-
pleasantness contest. I hate to break this to you. This is not a popularity contest.
If
It's
it
not
were,
a
you'd
contest of
lose.
who's nicer.
Exactly.
This is a debate.
And
if you can't debate, get the hell off the show.
And on that,
Rachel,
I'm pulling
you
everybody apart. Pulling everybody apart. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
enthusiasm and enjoy the spice. Gonna send love out there. Keep on sending in questions. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. But with that, we're gonna hand it off to one person. Ashley, you just put up your finger, and thus you are the next speaker.
I do believe that I get the sentiment of what you are saying, but I do believe also, Andrew, that that's wordplay, and I think that you know it. I think it's a manipulative tactic to use. When you said, if the Thanos technique, right? Like if tomorrow men could snap their fingers and all women...
They can.
I'm talking.
I thought that's nice. I'm talking too. Is that amazing?
We know. That's the problem.
Do you know how a debate works, Andrew? The moderator gave me the floor. If you can't handle it, then get out.
Yeah, but that's just showing more preference, and shit proves that men are treated like shit.
I'm just
Andrew's
saying
the most
that
suppressed.
It's instantly
Yeah,
picking
exactly.
a woman's side, of course, but go ahead. Go ahead. Give us your fluff, illogical bullshit that I can respond to. I'll wait.
Oh, well, that's so kind of you. Thank
It
you.
is because I'm benevolent. I told you.
If tomorrow men could use the Thanos technique and snap their fingers and all women would be enslaved, could be enslaved, pardon me, then they would be. Does that not sound to you? Does that not sound to any logical person, Rachel, that if they could, then they would?
Well,
Does
then
it not
why
sound
don't
like that?
they? Why haven't they? He's just saying they
Because
could,
that's
but
not
the,
a fucking
Ashley,
possibility, you
for
twat.
the love of
Well,
God,
it's not what
try
you
to
mean.
think.
Wait.
Just-
Are you saying that there's not civilizations right this second where men haven't snapped their fingers and women are completely dominated and subservient to them?
I'm saying that Thanos is from a comic book, and that is a surreal
Oh,
idea.
really? Is he? I didn't know that. Tell me more things I don't know, Ashley.
Okay, I could probably do that, to be quite honest.
I
I
just-
think that
No.
your technique is
You-
to play word games, and it's
Are
just
you,
incredibly
no, that's
silly.
not word games.
It's
Try to pay
okay.
attention. Let me explain it to you. He's saying if men were the evil bastards that the evil patriarchy that they're painted to be, they would enslave women tomorrow because they can. They can,
Do you
but they
understand?
don't.
Right. Do you
And the
understand?
fact that they don't.
Was my point
No,
of view
the
was
fact
I
that they
understand
let
what-
me finish.
But you never let
they
me
don't-
finish. You never
the
fucking let
fact
me
that
finish.
they
I said my
don't
point of view
prove
is that
that
I think
men
I
are not that
understand
way.
the sentiment, Rachel, but that's not the way it was interpreted.
It
Jesus
doesn't
fucking
matter.
We are going to
It's
pull.
what he actually said.
I'm going to pull both apart. And it sounded like, Rachel, you were finishing something. So I'm going to
Yes.
give it to you. And then I'll give it back to you, Ashley.
Yes. What Andrew actually said, I don't care what you're inferring or how it made you feel. What he actually said was if men wanted to be the tyrants that they're painted as, they could do it tomorrow, but they don't. They haven't, and they don't, and they're not going to, which
But
is
that's not
proof
what he
that they
actually
are, which
said.
is proof that they are benevolent, that they are not some kind of evil oppressors who just want to enslave us because they have that ability, yet they don't do it. Now, we need to get back to the topic of the debate, and you two need to defend your position. So I would like to hear your argument as to why men are not ignored or discarded or treated unfairly. And please present an argument.
My argument is that it's men like your husband who represent a lot of these assholes, and it makes women hate all men. That's my argument. How you like them apples?
That's not an argument.
Whatever,
Well,
you were pulling
Well,
it.
I actually think there is a
Wait.
point to that. If I can, I think there is something to that because I think a lot of the times when we
Men
talk
like
about
me.
men,
Men like you.
so I think to
Here's
be
me.
clear,
That's true. Gross,
to be
dude.
clear about the question of the debate, it was about whether men are underappreciated compared to women, correct? That was how the email was
Yes.
framed.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting that a lot of times, like in a lot of the contexts that I would agree that men are undervalued and underappreciated, it's by other men in a lot of ways, like by bosses, even by like family members and stuff, and by other men who perceive them as not living up to certain masculine ideals, and that they are shamed for these things.
Teammates, friends.
I mean, at the beginning of this debate, which by the way, I'm not, but at the beginning of this debate, Andrew mocked me for supposedly being gay, which I think is
Right off
because I embrace a lot of feminine characteristics, or from his perspective, I do. And he's shaming me for that. He's using that as an insult to me, right? He's shaming me for presenting in what he perceives as a feminine way. And he's saying, not only am I doing that, but he's saying that's a bad thing. So I'd say that it's men like Ashley said, it's men like Andrew and men who are pushing other men down for presenting or expressing themselves in ways that he's uncomfortable with, who are really the ones who are undervaluing and making.
Why are they higher? Whether or not it has something to do with thoughts or who did it better or who did it worse, whatever. Why are they higher? Because mental health is discouraged in men. That's why. And who's doing that discouraging? Men like you, Andrew.
Yeah, again, other men, especially men like Andrew.
So back to me being the epitome of the evil patriarchy, which is oppressing everybody. Meanwhile, I have
things we never said.
Hang on. I have a solid whole family unit with multiple children and have been married successfully, I might add, for 16 years. Any track record of anybody else here who can say that? Anybody? Hands? Nobody. No, not a single person. The only stable male person who's here, the only stable person who has these male characteristics that I espouse and these virtues is the only one that has an actual stable family unit. Gave you guys an opportunity to say me too, but there is no me too, just me, right?
Sorry,
I think what it is, it's sheer jealousy, very upset. You're very unhappy. You're not very thrilled that you don't understand basic logic, and I called you out on it. But you still haven't actually given us what Rachel's asked for multiple times, which is an argument. Do you have an argument,
and
Ashley?
all you're saying is you're jealous. You're jealous.
Do you have an argument, Ashley?
I thought I did make an argument.
Yeah, actually, we presented an argument.
What's the argument?
Several.
What's the argument?
If I can clarify.
Yeah.
The argument that I was making just now was that in the because I wanted to be more specific about like which men by whom, I would say that in a lot of ways the men who are undervalued in society, they are undervalued and underappreciated not by like women as a gender, but by a lot of other men, and
let me
by
respond,
some women, but largely by other men.
Let me respond to that argument. Let me respond to that argument. Right. Mm-hmm. My response to the argument is that what you guys have tried to do is say I am responsible. It's men like me who are responsible for the oppression of people like you. So therefore, I'm trying. This is actually alludes to my point that you guys are as oppressive as possible to family dynamics in an actual patriarchal system. And this is why men are shutting down all over the place, because little wimps come in and say, you're being oppressive, you're being mean, you're being cruel.
You being a shitty person, bro.
What makes me a shitty person? What makes me a shitty person? Give me an argument about how I'm a shitty person. What's the argument for me being a bad person?
The one example that I used was that you again, you alluded to the idea that I'm gay, and you also were using like saying that like it was a bad thing.
You're gay.
Like it was literally the first thing you said. Like, but you were like,
Andrew,
I know you were
mean is not an argument. Please stick to the topic and make an
argument. I know. So
I'm gonna pull you apart again. Radical.
It's not just about being mean. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Pull Radical, and then it'll throw it over to the yes side.
I wasn't presenting
So
an argument.
I think you said Radical. Are you Radical, Andrew? I don't.
Did you want me to clarify the position or not?
No, I wanted to clarify my position. So
I already know your position.
Well, it doesn't seem like you do. So to be clear, my issue wasn't with you being mean. My issue was with the punchline of what you were being mean about. Right. So you were using my a lot of traits that I have that people perceive as feminine, and you were saying that these are bad things. You were insulting me. I don't feel insulted. To be clear, I don't care. I get called gay all the time. I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm a gay
sure you do.
Man,
I'm sure you do.
And I fucking rock it. All right. Okay. And I own that shit. And that's fine. But you were weaponizing it, and you were saying that I wasn't living up to your ideal of masculinity, and you're saying that's a bad thing. I think a lot of times this is the problem, because we see men who are shaming other men for not living up to some archetype of masculinity, and that when men find that they don't live up to these things, that they're not able to provide in the ways that they're, and which I provide just fine, but to the men who feel like they can't provide in the ways that they're expected to, this is where a lot of mental health crises come in, and they're also shamed for seeking help and expressing their emotions and all sorts of things by
Radical Coder. I'm gonna here's my counter argument to this ridiculous argument, by the way, which has no merit on anything. Just so you understand, I want to ask you a very basic question, see if you can answer it. Ashley over there, who hates me, thinking I'm a mean dick because I called you gay at the outset of this.
I also think you're a mean dick.
Because it was hilarious, by the way, and you have no sense of humor, and it was hilarious. if the building was burning down and she had to walk over to your 5'4" ass who weighs 125 pounds, or walk over to my 6', 180-pound person and say, please run in there and take my child out of the building, she wouldn't pick you, Coder. And
Andrew,
this
I weigh
is
10
why
pounds less than you, and we're the
this
same
is
height.
why you get shamed. The reason you get shamed for not living up to the expectation of masculinity is because we need masculine men to run society. That's why we need it.
Okay,
Just
I wait.
Well, who do you think, Coder, who do you think a woman would generally go to if they saw you with
Maybe
your
you.
gloves
I
and your
don't
pink
know.
hair, right?
I don't have.
Who do you think?
But to be
No,
clear,
answer my
we're
question.
The same height.
I
We're the
don't
same
know.
height,
He just
and
says
I weigh like 10
says I
pounds
don't
less
know.
than you. Yeah.
He just says I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably me.
It seems like you might be a little bit
I'm
more
really
nimble in
handsome.
that situation, Ryan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I move pretty quick. I can lift a little bit. Don't worry. I got you,
Okay,
Ashley.
but we're getting way off.
Lift your pink
topic.
weights.
This was supposed to be a debate about whether or not men are treated badly.
I know. That's what we want to talk about, but you guys don't want to. You
I
go
do.
off on all
That's
these weird
exactly
tangents.
what I
Yeah.
want to talk about.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I outlined a ton of points in my opening, which neither of you have addressed. This is a common problem that I
actually
do over
did. I
and over.
addressed several of
Ashley,
your points.
you've been
numbers.
talking. It's my turn to talk.
You're a lying twat.
I've outlined several points that prove that men are actually at a disadvantage and are treated worse than women in society now, right? So you haven't answered to any of those, and this is a common problem I run into with people who don't understand what a debate is or how to do it. You are supposed to respond to my points. When I say, why are men getting 40% longer sentences than women for the exact same crime? Why are boys?
Because no one's disagreeing with you on that, dumbass.
Because they already conceded
We're
the
trying
debate.
to
At this point, we're just
discuss-
naming
we're
on them.
So make an argument that proves.
Why would
that
I argue
I'm
against
wrong?
something I fucking agree with?
Right.
Why are
You
you
understand how it
debating me?
Right.
If you agree with me, why are you here debating
Why
me?
don't you talk to the host about that?
No,
Not
you're
my
the
fault.
one who accepted
It's a conspiracy. It's a
and I
conspiracy.
was never
accepted the debate.
I assumed I was on the other side, bitch.
That's funny.
Oh,
Why
bitch.
wouldn't I?
Now I'm a bitch. See what I mean? That she's
You
so
are.
incompetent that she can't. She can't
Emotionally,
actually-
hang on. You're emotionally unhinged, Ashley.
Yes.
You need to calm
pretty much.
down.
If the
Ashley. Calm
patriarchy
down.
were
Own it.
still around, they would take care of women like Ashley and make them behave. So please, Ashley,
Well, if
Debate
it were
me.
still
Then who would
around,
buy
you'd
your book?
actually your husband
Debate
a
me.
blowjob more often. He wouldn't be so wound up.
And I appreciate
okay.
the spice, but just gonna send a reminder that all of our lovely audience wants to hear each of your points, and so gonna hand it back to whoever would like to have the ball. But
Yeah,
then it's
so
going
I'd
back
like
to
to
them.
I'd like to take it from here. Interestingly enough, instantly Ashley goes right for the degenerate cut, right? The assumption being that I'm just so wound up from a lack of blowjobs.
I've
Ashley,
heard
is
you
this
say this
hang on.
before on stream.
Ashley? No, you
It's not an
haven't.
assumption.
What are
No.
you talking? You've never heard it once.
No,
Yes,
you've
I have.
never. He doesn't
I'll tell you
ever
what,
talk
I'll tell you
about
what.
that.
I'll make
did.
a
He did.
$500 bet with you right now, and
You
I'll
made
give
an
you 2
argument,
months.
Alex
2
from Playing with
months.
Fire stream that marriages often are sexless and that it's okay to have a sexless marriage.
No, he
That-
did not.
Yes, he
What
did.
in the
Yes, he
world?
did.
No, he
Even-
did
I remember
not.
it
Hang on,
specifically.
Actually, we have
Trace,
five
hang on, both of you.
When
both
I
of you.
found out
Listen,
you
Five
were his wife.
kids. How do you think?
I
we
want
got
to. I just
five
want to. I
kids?
just want to let you know again. You still don't understand the difference between
She's
is and
so
odd.
threatened. She's got.
I have
such an
not.
inferiority
I have
complex.
never ever
Pathetic.
made such a statement. I just think it's hilarious that the first thing you go to how to make a man
Pathetic.
behave is to give them a blowjob. I think
Yeah,
that that's
He was talking
interesting
about
and
traditional-
hilarious. In fact, that
She
saying that
doesn't have
men would
anything
put me in my
upstairs. She
place.
has to try to use sexuality.
right, you
to
can
like
control that
men.
guy if you
have
use
to
your
use
pussy.
physical abuse.
And
You're doing the same fucking thing.
if you would like
Pathetic.
Radical Coder or Ashley, I'll give you like another 30 more seconds, and then we'll go back over the yes side. Yep, you're good.
All right. So, Rachel, I said that in response to you talking about men physically abusing a woman in order to put her in her place. But you're going to sit
I
there
didn't
and
say
me,
physically.
you're,
When did I say physical abuse?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I insinuating things again? You said and if
yes.
it's the patriarchy, men would handle women like Ashley to put her in
Yeah.
her place.
You just would be socially shamed into not being a stupid, vapid, empty-headed bitch. who calls me a bitch because I am smart and know how to debate.
But I
and you've got
argue
nothing
against
up
calling
here.
bitch, and now I'm
You've
calling
got
you.
nothing upstairs. You
And
don't.
so-
you shouldn't be here.
so
you
now
should
that we
be
are-
doing something else.
Now that we're even on ad hominems, I want to remind everyone just to attack the arguments and not the people.
Yes,
But
please.
Wait, moderator.
Please, an argument
Wait.
for the love of God.
but
Wait,
all of
those
their
weren't
links.
ad homs. They're not ad homs if they're truth claims. The truth
Exactly.
claim that Rachel's making is that Ashley's an empty-headed, stupid bitch. It's a truth claim. It's not an ad hom.